Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unedited Me. I'm Sabrina, your host here, and welcome to season 2 of the Unedited Me. This season, we have 2 microphones here in our studio, so we're pretty stoked about that. And this season is going to be a season predominantly with invites with people who are here with me and recording with me. So for my first invite today, I have my husband. If you guys are watching via YouTube, then you'll know that you've seen my husband, just sitting here patiently waiting for me to do my intro. But say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Welcome. So today I brought on my husband here because I just touched your microphone. I speak so much with my hands. It's just
That's
insane.
the Italian in you.
It's the Italian in me. It is. So I got you here today to do a second podcast in 2 weeks because I really enjoyed our last conversation. I think that it was really, really great. I really learned a lot just by talking to you. Even though we've been married for 7 years, I feel like I learned more about you in that time. So it was really good. So I wanted you back here, and I wanted to have a great conversation today about this.
Happy to be here. Happy to do that again with you.
So today the topic of discussion is our time going to Bethel. A lot of people have heard of this place, of this church. We specifically went to Bethel Church, as well as going to BSSM, their school, which is just a bunch of letters to say Bethel Supernatural School of Ministry.
Ooh.
So a lot of people have a lot of things to say about this place, about their experiences there. There have been countless stories that come out about, just goods, bads, uglies, beautiful, and the whole works. Just basically everything under the sun to say about Bethel. So much so that recently Bethel launched their own podcast. I forget exactly what it's entitled, but basically reintroduce Bethel or something along those lines. And it's basically to explain their hearts, because there's been so much misinformation about this church and about the people there. And there's been like a lot of negative connotation of the people who are in charge, the pastors, the leaders. And so
because they have to be perfect,
everybody has to be perfect, right?
If you make a mistake, your ministry is over. It's done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the reason why they started this podcast is because there's so much to be said about what they say, what they do. And today we're discussing all of that. We're discussing our time. So this may be a longer podcast if you guys are listening, but brace yourselves, grab a cup of tea, grab your dinner, and just sit and chat with us today. Oliver has his coffee. I have my bubble water as normal. If you guys know me or follow me at all, you know that I'm about the bubble water life, specifically the lime flavor. And so this is what we're doing. We're chatting our time at Bethel. So let's just get right into it. Oliver, you're the first one actually that started off going to Bethel first. You were the first one to go to Bethel, to BSSM. And so I would like to, spend some time just hearing how you experienced Bethel firsthand back in 2013, so that you can explain, how things were, why you decided to go, and then we'll get into like us going together.
Well, going there, it was just a spur of the moment, actually. Like, it was summer of 2013. I had just met you, and at the same time as I met you, I knew that I needed to get out of Quebec. I knew that I needed to get out of my comfort zone and everything. And I was looking at different schools, different things. And then I read up on Bethel. And like I knew about them because of their music and what they've done before, called like their band was called Jesus Culture, which was really famous. And I was listening to their music, but I didn't know about the school. And one of my friends that I've met in Las Vegas for 2 weeks, she's from Canada, but I met her there at a conference or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And
Can I just pause to say that everybody who's listening who's American just heard Oliver say Las Vegas, because Quebecers say Las Vegas. I don't know why, but it's Las Vegas,
yeah,
babes.
I'm sorry, it's my French.
It's Las Vegas.
Excuse my French, like you guys would say. Yeah, so met that person, and she did first year in 2012. And then I asked her a few questions about it, and I read up online what they were all about. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I have to do. I had no money, but this is what I have to do. I need to go. My parents were like, that's something really good, and we are willing to invest in you going there. And yeah, do it. And then after a month of knowing you, I left. We weren't even dating yet. And I just left, got there, I started living with 4 guys in a 4.5. It was super small, super stuck, like roaches and all that crap. It was nuts, like going to a completely different country just to go to a school of supernatural ministry. It feels like going to Hogwarts or something like that. That's what people, there's so many memes about that school, about like it being Hogwarts and like a wizard school. It's really funny. And first 2 weeks was absolutely amazing, but all I could think about is this beautiful woman called Sabrina back in Quebec that I just met, and I had feelings for her that developed over 1 month because we saw each other every single day. We messaged all the way up to 5 a.m. on Facebook Messenger. It was, I for sure knew it was the woman of my life at that point, but I didn't know if she liked me because, you know, you're insecure and you're not sure what the other person thinks. And
So now you're just talking about me. You're not even talking at all about your experience at Bethel.
I know, but it started because of that. Like, my experience was us dating. Like, our first experience together in a relationship was over Skype. Like, that was crazy to go to a different school, start a new relationship, and study, read a bunch of books, do a bunch of activities, meet people from around the world, because they have around 60 countries represented in the first school. It's like, imagine you go to a auditorium of 3,000 and it's halfway full. There's 1,500 about people, they're students doing the first year, and you're just introduced to everyone at the same time, and you're like put right in their culture. And it's really more of a lifestyle, like learn and do type of school. You get there to learn, but they also teach you like right away.
So why did you choose to go to Bethel over any other school? You could have gone to so many other schools, like ministry schools or Christian schools, but you chose Bethel. Why?
California,
the California life.
California, baby.
Okay. But was there something that like specifically caught your eye that you were like, okay, there's something different about this place that I need to go investigate?
Honestly, it was ignorance. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Zero. It's just the opinion of one friend that I had high regards of what she thought. And then I read their, what is it called?
Core values?
Their core values. And I was like, yeah, that represents me. And
Okay.
there was another school, which you went actually, and School of Ministry in Toronto. But I felt like it's too close. Like, I'm going to be too close to my family. It's like 5.5 hour trip. I could drive down, and like I needed to really have a cultural shock.
Well, because you were also homeschooled. So,
Yeah, that's another
so you
thing.
were just so involved in the family life, in the Quebec life, in, you know, church life in Quebec. You didn't even really have any experience of being outside on your own in a place where you could grow for a longer period of time than just say a month.
Yeah, I was 21 and I had never lived on my own. My mom cooked everything for me. Look, I worked in a shop from.
Can you explain shop?
A shop is a factory.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
like, I
Because
was
Quebec is the only place that we say that. A shop is like going to like Winners.
Yeah, I don't remember what's it called? But I was
a factory worker.
Yeah, factory worker. And
Thing for you.
oh yeah, she even cooked. She made my meals, my lunches for the next morning for going to work. I told Mom, I'm gonna make my own things. I'm an adult. She's like, no, you're living in my house. I want to do it for you. And then I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn how to cook. Like that's silly. I didn't learn like normal things. And I remember calling you, Skyping you, and I was cooking at the same time we were Skyping, and I'm like, how do I cut an onion?
How do you open a can? That was the biggest one for me. I was genuinely like,
I'm sorry. That is a big fat lie. I ate tuna can my whole life. I knew how to open a can.
No, this type of can, the one that you crank?
Yeah.
You asked me how to
no
open
way.
it.
Never. I'm sorry. Never. I used that my whole life. I grew up on tuna sandwich. I made tuna sandwich all the time, and I knew how to use a Starfrit.
I forgive you for forgetting. I forgive you for forgetting.
I'm not forgetting nothing.
So let's just backtrack here. So we're chatting about your life, about the decisions that led up to you going to Bethel. But you spent 9 months at Bethel in Redding, California. How was that experience? Regardless of our relationship tied together, what were the types of things that you were seeing, and like what kind of culture was being created there that you were a little bit, maybe mystified by, or a little bit confused by, or even just like surprised and happy about?
I was stretched in my thinking, because growing up, going to the same church, doing the same things, having the same teachings, having the same things over and over again, I thought the truth I had was the only truth that existed. Like, my foundation as a Christian was the foundation of my parents. So I didn't have my own convictions, my own things. So I was hearing things and I was disagreeing with things for the first time. I was questioning what I was thinking for the first time. I was becoming my own man. And I needed that. I really needed that. And that's what it brought for me going there, because it's really a place of freedom. If you're there to get healed, to get out of your crap, you're going to the wrong place. If you're going there, it's because you are already firm in who you are as a Christian, and you want to evolve, you want to grow, and you want to bathe in their culture to get that in you. And going there,
What kind of culture do they have? Maybe you can explain that a little bit from your experience, just, going right in. What were you seeing?
They respect all opinions, and they want to have conversation. So if you're Baptist, if you're evangelical, like for people that don't know, it's denominations in the church. Like, people are all Protestants, but they all believe like slight differences in in theology. But there, it's open to debate. It's open to conversation. They encourage it. They encourage like going deep and like experiencing Holy Spirit, experiencing and like having spiritual experiences. And you have people from different countries that are there too. And on top of having the denominations of Westerners, you have denominations of other countries, which it's so different. Culturally, they interpret different things. They interpret the Bible differently. So it's so mind-opening. And you get stretched from left, right, up, down, because it's so much information at once, but it's so beautiful because it's expanding your thoughts. It's expanding your horizon, and you're learning that your small little world is not the whole world, and there's more out there that you need to learn. You need to grow. Yeah.
I mean, that from my perspective, from my experience, was something that caught my eye as well, because, now that I'm outside of this, and I've not attended Bethel for the past 6 years. I have gone to visit friends and to whatever. But it's something that a lot of people bring up, and they say, well, Bethel is either super against other ways of believing in God, and then they'll say that Bethel is too open. And so there's these two different opposing views, and I'm like, dang, like when I was there, I didn't experience that. Like I experienced, people coming and everyone from their different background. And then obviously they're teaching the Bible. So they're teaching the way that they believe in the Bible theologically. However, they're so open, especially Dan Fairley, who is like the theology teacher of the school. He is very open, and he is willing to do debates, and he's willing to talk about, the different views about things. I remember times where, we would be doing our homework all together, because there's like a time to answer your homework all together with the whole, 1,200 people in the room. And he would come around and he would ask questions, and he would, give the mic to people, and people would ask questions in a group of 1,200 people, which is absolutely insane. And I don't know how many schools actually do that, but, like people were giving opposing thoughts, and we would all talk about it, and we would all, chat amongst our friends. And in our revival group, which is like the main the main group splitting up into groups of like about 90 people. And so in those groups, then we would talk together, and I can't get gloop out of my head. We would talk together about, the different ideologies, the different ways of thinking about things. And it was a very stretching season. And so I want to know from your perspective, before we get onto like our story together when we went, but from your perspective, how did you experience Bill Johnson, Chris Valentin? These are the two main leaders, the main pastors.
Senior pastors of the church.
Senior pastors of the church. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about these people. How did you personally experience them?
Well, they're two opposite characters. Like they don't teach, preach, do anything the same. So you can't compare both, first and foremost. And that is one thing that I really enjoy about them being the two senior pastors, because together you have two different ways of seeing their beliefs. It's like you have two different approach. You have Bill Johnson that is all about peace, meditation. He takes pauses when he's speaking so that the information seeps in and you ponder on what he just said. And then he's going to go on and he's going to say the same thing, but in a different manner. And he's going to take another pause, and you're going to ponder and realize that he just spent 2 hours saying the same thing over and over again, but from a different angle. And your mind is blown. And
my gosh, blown.
Oh yeah, big time. You get out of there, you're saved again. And then you have Chris Valentin that is super dry, sarcastic. His humor is really my kind of humor. If you don't like that kind of humor, you're gonna get insulted, because he's so direct. He tells you how it is, but at the same time as he tells you how it is, he proposes. That's his thing. Let me propose to you. And he proposes a way of thinking, which is his way of thinking about the Bible. But he proposes it so that you can ponder on it, think about it, study it. He encourages, go in the Bible and study what I just said. He doesn't, They don't just say believe what I'm saying. It's like, it's really your relationship. Like they have a thing about history, building your history with Jesus. And you need to build that. You need to go in the Bible. You need to have your secret place. And every time they say something, it's like, go and practice it. Go and practice to see if it works.
Go learn on your own. This is what I'm proposing to you. This is what I believe. And a lot of people, when they listen to Bethel online, they'll take little segments of what they're saying. And for Chris has, I think, been the most talked about. Controversial talked about, because there are things that he'll say that are very blunt. There are things that he'll say that are very direct to the point, and people will take that out of context and not know the person's heart. And from what we've experienced, weaving in, my experience as well, is the fact that he's like, listen to what I'm saying, but at the same time, develop your relationship with God on your own. This is not my relationship with God through you. I am not your pastor. I am just your teacher for this 9 months, and then bye. And I love you and I bless you to go and build in another place. I'm not asking you to stay here forever under my rule, but listen to me, come under my authority for 9 months, and then you can take what you've learned and then you can bring it out into the world. But so many people take the things that he has said specifically, about sin and about wealth, and they twist it in a way that honestly, at first when I was hearing it, I was like, that's really funny because I never heard those things from his mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Genuinely, I was like, this is just a huge perspective difference because like at first I didn't want to go to Bethel. I wanted to go to school of ministry. In Toronto, I knew where I wanted to go. I thought that I was going to marry a Torontonian. I did not have any idea that I was going to be married to a Quebecer who I met in Quebec and then go to Bethel. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that would happen. But when I started going to California, going to Bethel and being a part of BSSM, I knew that there was something special about what I was learning there. And I knew that it was going to help me for the rest of my life. And so all that to say is that I think that when there's a special circumstance, when you're deciding to go under a ministry and you're like, you know what, listen, I may not agree with everything that they say, but at least I'm going to choose to honor them while I'm here and then let it ruminate in me, let it kind of settle in me, throw out the bones and keep the meat. And I think that not a lot of people are doing that in today's society just because of how quick things are. You know, we're so used to having quick gratification, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Pinterest, all those things. We're just so used to that very quick gratification that if we hear something that we don't like, oh, okay, we reject it, we cancel it.
Exactly. It's like leave the 1% that bothers you and keep the 99% that's good.
Exactly.
And don't get hung up on 1%. Like a tiny, end times
theology
that you disagree with. Don't throw out everything because that one thing you disagree with. You're not disagreeing with the person per se. You're just disagreeing with one slice of what they believe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, I mean, I think that there's definitely a lot of different viewpoints. I'm going to get to some questions or some comments that people have sent to me. I did put on Instagram that I was going to have a conversation about Bethel. So I wanted to see what questions you guys sent over to me and if I could respond to anything. I am going to talk a little bit about my experience as well, so that I can, share that. It's really important for me to share that. I think I did have a question, but what I did want to get into at first was, our experience together as a married couple, because things obviously changed once you and I were together in Reading and being able to experience that together, experience the process of life and what it was like. And then I want to then talk about how I feel now and how we feel now. And, the controversy that we've heard about, the questions that we've heard through, numerous amount of accounts and YouTubers and all this stuff. So my story is that I came to visit you while you were out there, and I still had no intention of going to Bethel. I was actually going to go in 2 weeks after I was visiting you. I was going to go to the school ministry that I had applied and got accepted at in Toronto. And I was just going to go and visit him. And there was something burning inside of me. It was so weird. Like, it was almost like, I don't know, when you have a deja vu and you're like, okay, I've been here before. Or when you have those moments when you're like, okay, something is up. Something's going on in me. I feel something, like there's something good's going to happen, something bad's going to happen. Well, that was happening in me. And I went to visit Oliver. I get to Bethel, the school, Bethel BSSM. And I walk in, and all of a sudden I feel so strongly God speaking to me, saying that this was going to be my home. And I was like, wait, what? Like, dude, I like in a week and a half, I'm going to Toronto and I'm going to do school of ministry there. And honestly, I was really shocked because I didn't want to go there. I wasn't planning on going there. And my little crazy story about that is that, maybe let's say a week later, like I was staying there for, I think 10 days. A week later, I was really like thinking about this one thing that I was hearing that I heard when I walked in, and that I continued hearing, like this was going to be my home.
Yeah, we were in the stadium type of deal, and you were starting to feel anxious and asking yourself a lot of questions. And then we got out. We were listening to Bill Johnson actually, and you were feeling weird. So we just went out, we grabbed something to eat or drink, and then we sat in the stairs and we started talking about that decision, like how it would look like for us to be there. And
I was so anxious, and I looked at Oliver and I was like, I really don't know what to do. Like, I'm supposed to go to Toronto. And he's like, no, you know what, Sab? Like, I really feel like we need to just stop this conversation right now, go back and listen, because I feel like there's something that he has to say. And I'm like, okay, like you're stopping me from thinking. I see how it is. I was like that little like, like not down about that, but it's okay. It was actually really amazing what happened. We went to go sit. I'm not even saying like 5 minutes later, I was on my phone. I was writing down the pros and the cons of why I would go to Bethel and cancel my my acceptance to go to School of Ministry in Toronto. And I started writing them down. I wrote, I think my pros, like I wrote my pros, and then I went to my cons. And my con was that I was afraid of what people were going to think about me, because I had already done fundraising for the school that I was going to go to. It's a typical thing. If you're not a Christian and you don't know this, it's a typical thing to do fundraising for going to a theology school. And so I'd already done fundraising for that. And so I was really worried that people, I would go back and then people at my church would be like, wait, we just spent money so that you could go to Toronto. And now you're saying that you're not going to go to Toronto anymore. You're going to go to Bethel. Why are you going to Bethel? Just to follow your fiance or whatever?
Well, that's a pretty good reason.
It is a pretty good reason, but I was just really scared about that. I'm not even joking you. Literally right after I wrote the last letter on my phone.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm not even joking you. Right after I wrote the last letter on my phone, I hear Bill at the front. He closes his Bible for a second. He just stops and he just looks out in space, and he's like, I need to stop what I'm saying right now. And I was like, what? And because there was such I was hearing him talk. So as I was writing all these pros and cons, I'm hearing him talk, and I'm just kind of filtering it through. But there was such an abrupt end to what he said, and to then saying I need to take a break right now, that it actually shifted my attention to off of my phone and to the stage where he was talking. And he says, why are you stopping yourself from doing something just because you're afraid of what people think about you? And I literally was like, wait.
Did he just hear my thoughts?
Did he just hear my thoughts? I'm sitting all the way in the back. He wasn't talking about this. I'm pretty sure he wasn't talking about this during his preach.
I was listening to him. I was not writing. I was next to you. He was not speaking about that. He just stopped to say something that had nothing to do with his preach.
Literally nothing. In a room of 1,300 people. And I was like, okay, this is messed up.
It's not messed up. It's God.
I know, but at the same time, I was like, this is messed up. What the heck is happening right now? I was genuinely okay, wait. I have never experienced a situation where somebody read my thoughts from across the freaking room, and it's somebody I don't know, and they're literally answering to me right now. I literally was so struck in that moment. And so fast track, I ended up being okay, I'm supposed to be here clearly because this guy who doesn't know me said this randomly in the middle of his preach, and it was definitely a sign for me to listen to God. And I decided to go. And so my experience, us being married and going to Bethel was honestly extraordinary. I didn't expect at all anything that was happening. You know, I grew up in a very, strict environment. And then I switched and I changed to a Pentecostal environment. So if you know that word, then you know that Pentecostal environments can be quite crazy sometimes. Charismatic. People falling on the floor, people shaking, people under the influence of the Holy Spirit. And if you don't know what that is and you have questions, you can ask me questions. Don't be afraid to DM me about this or comment below or anything. I'm super open to talking about these things. But I was experienced with that. I was not experienced with seeing as many miracles, signs, and wonders happening in such a short amount of time. And so growing up, I didn't believe that miracles could happen. And then when I went to the Pentecostal church I grew up at, I started believing, but I didn't see it as much. It wasn't something that was part of my daily life. Prophesying also, which is just hearing God for somebody else and hearing God's word for another person that you don't know, and just being able to share it with that person. That's something that we did, that we learned. But at the level that was being done at School of Ministry was something that I never experienced. And, I loved it. It was very challenging. As Oliver said, it's a very stretching experience. It's not for the faint of heart, because you will be stretched. And there was definitely moments where I was a little bit like, okay, right now there's a bunch of people in a corner getting drunk on the Holy Spirit, which is like a whole different topic. And, as I said, I'm so open to talking about those things. But like, it's just, sometimes it's like, okay, like I need to adjust myself to this. I need to understand what's going on. I had people in my small group, which we know, we said that there's the big group, then there's the RG revival group. And then there's a small group, which is like a group of 4 or 5 girls within your revival group. I had people in there that were talking to me about how they did not ever experience, being filled with the Holy Spirit. And so there were people from all different backgrounds. There was me, who had grown up not experiencing it, who then experienced it, and then now was kind of bathing in this, like, in this room of people getting drunk in the Holy Spirit, which is like basically a term for saying that they're connecting with God and they can look drunk. And it'll alarm you if you're not Christian. It'll alarm you if you're Christian. It can be alarming just to not be feeling it, but seeing it. It's, I've been drunk before, and like when you're drunk, you can be going, you can be doing weird things. But when you're the only drunk person, you're the only non-drunk person, the only sober person in a room of drunk people, it's very sobering. And you're like, wait, what's happening? I don't know what's going on. And I think that sometimes there were moments at Bethel that you are feeling that. You're like, okay.
There's such freedom. There is such a freedom and mentality there that, like, there's going to be real experiences. There are going to be people that fake it. There are going to be people that are angry at it. There are going to be people that don't quite understand it. They want it, but they're not able to get where other people are at. And that's a challenge, because you want to experience what other people are experiencing, and you're seeing them experiencing it, and it looks amazing. And so there's such a culture, like a freedom culture, that you can do whatever, because it's a safe place where people do not judge you, supposed to not judge you. But most people do not judge because they're all there to grow and experience something different. So yes, when you're the only one that's not experiencing something, it can be frustrating. It can be angering, which frustration is pretty much anger. So you're looking at it, you want it, you can't get it now. And it's a process, internal process with God. And so it's even in the things that stretch you the most, it builds your relationship with Jesus, because it makes you question Him, it makes you question Holy Spirit, it makes you question your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. And that's kind of what you experience when you're there sometimes. And that's one of the biggest things that people have mainly spoken out about, because they've said that there have been weird things that come out of it. And I don't really have any personal comments about that because I never experienced anything incredibly bizarre. I've experienced way more bizarre things at different places. And so for me, that wasn't anything, surprising or weird. It's just it is weird sometimes when you're the only sober. I say sober, but it's like you're the only person that's not really connecting to the moment. And then everybody's connecting to this moment of like experiencing God. And you may be having an off day. You may be questioning things. You may be just in a period where you're not really wanting to connect with that, and that's totally okay. But for me, as my experience goes, I didn't see anything so bizarre that made me question like what they're doing or why they're doing it. I've experienced and witnessed way more intense. And as one day I could even express, I can express that or share that in a podcast, but the main thing that I think was the most incredible experience at Bethel that I had, incredible as in like, that's something that I look back and I'm like, there was something weird about that, is the outside world. And so when I speak of the outside world, it was everything that was not really associated with the school itself. It was associated with the people that would say that they go to Bethel. That I was like, oh, okay, you go to Bethel, but like you seem really fucked up. Like that's all I could really say. Like there were people that were saying that they were from Bethel, and it's fine, like Christians, are not perfect. And whether you believe in God or not, you can be messed up, and you can have a lot of messed up shit in your life and all that stuff. But it's that these people were saying that, they represented Bethel, and they were representing the Bethel school, the Bethel church and all that. And they were really they were genuinely not what I expected to be. There was a lot of just weirdness with that. There was one specific person that I'm thinking about, that we were living in a house that I've named the Hell House, and whoever is watching who was in that house with me, then that there was a lot of crazy shit that happened. Oliver can attest because he was in that house with me. Oh, yeah. But the owner of that house, which will remain nameless, she was somebody that she was like, yeah, we represent Bethel. Oh, like me and my husband or whatever, we are doing this house and we really want to encourage Bethel students and all this stuff. And like, it was really night and day with this person. Like she did not represent Bethel in the right way. And I think that the reason why I'm talking about this is that I think that a lot of people comment about Bethel because of their experience having gone to school ministry there, and they experience people rather than their experience of the church and the leaders and all that stuff personally. They'll experience people's representation of Bethel, or of, their own representation of their own hurts and lives and crap. And they will be hurt. They will be deceived. They will be let down by these people. And so they definitely associate these people to Bethel and to what Bethel is doing and to their mission and to their ministry. And like, that's something that I've personally I've never chosen to associate this woman to Bethel and to say that every other person at Bethel is like this woman or like these other people that I experienced. It's not just this one lady that, changed my life, but there was other people in this house that I could have, said, oh, well, if these are a representation of Bethel, then I don't like it or whatever, because I met some genuinely amazing people. I met some people that changed my life forever. And they were people that I went to school with. They were people in my year. They were the leaders there. And that will never change for me. But I think that people who have gone have been negatively impacted by people who go there. And then they make an assumption about the whole place in general and generalize everything. And then they start, looking at preaches and saying, oh, but this is wrong in the preach and this is wrong. And so it's like a big snowball effect after, because you're hurt and then you want to find something that you disagree with so that you can put it back in their face, and then it's snowballs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my experience. That's how I generally experienced my time there. You know, as far as our experience together as a couple, I think that we were able to build, I don't know about you, babe, but I feel like we were able to build a solid ground from which to stand on in our marriage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. That was the main reason why we went there. It's like, you're 19, I'm 21, 22 at that time. And we're like, we need to start off our marriage well. And what better place to be at than Bethel, where you have so many different people, so many people that have like different backgrounds, and they have courses on everything. You're struggling with something, there's a course. Tuesday night, go there. You're going to learn about this. Like it was so many tools. And so we wanted to be there for our first year so that we would have a great foundation. It was amazing, the stuff that we learned. But learning something and practicing it is so different. And I would say that the things that we learned back then, we're still learning how to practice it now in our marriage. We're still learning how to apply it, because it was so much information. It was so hard to take everything and make it a reality in our lives. But I can say that it was never a bad decision to go there. Never, ever. Mm-hmm. Even if we struggle, even if we lived in that hell house, the times that we were at the school and we were at Bethel, because there's a huge difference between the school and Bethel. It's two different buildings. They're like 5 kilometers apart. They're not even close. And when you go to the school, you're with students. When you go to the church, you're going with anybody that is in the city. Like, they didn't pay. And like, you go to a normal church, so you encounter so many different things. So you have two different opinions. And most people, I find their opinions about Bethel is the church and the two main pastors. But as soon as you get there, you meet so many pastors. Their staff is over 200 people. 200 people as pastors leading a church with 200 different mindset, 200 different experience. And that's what's beautiful about this place, is because you go there, you don't know anything about it. You get there and you talk to someone, he has an opinion. You talk to another person, he has another opinion. And you're just taking in so much information. And yeah, it gets messy, for sure. It even got messy in the school a few times. But what is a church without mess? It's a church that's stuck in 4 walls and stuck in their box and stuck in their own ways, which is scary, because if you're stuck, you're not letting the movement of Holy Spirit, the movement of the Spirit. So you are basically doing your own truth. You're not giving the space to the one important person that wants all the space. Not just the Sunday morning. They want all of the space. And that's what's great about going there when you're first married, is that you go there and everything is not permissible, but everything can happen. You can experience God in so many different ways, from so many point of views. It structures you in a messy way. Because like that saying that there's no success without failure is basically that. Like, their church, that the reason why they have so much success is because they failed so many times. And you can see it in their staff. Like, there's so many things that happen, like adultery. There is like people that stole. There's like every sin that you can think about happened there. Like, it did happen, because they're
any
humans.
other church.
They're humans. Like, they're not like holy people that need to be perfect all the time. Like, of course, there's some people that are more perfect than others, that have more experience with God, and like they sin less and do all of that. But everyone sins. Everyone has sinned once in their life. So you can't go expecting them to be perfect and then like, oh man, I'm so disappointed. I'm not.
Oh yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
It's like you can't do that, because you're going to be disappointed anywhere.
it just re-shows your own disappointment with yourself and with the people that you grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm genuinely saying. If you choose to be disappointed by a place because they're not perfect, or there have been people that have done things that are negative or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, it's just because you've been disappointed in the past. So you're just you're recreating that disappointment in this situation.
Exactly.
And genuinely, it's not that big of an issue. Like, yes, people make mistakes, but everybody makes mistakes. And what is church if you can't have people in the church that make mistakes and there's grace? Like, that's the whole point of Christianity. The fact that we have a savior that we can accept in our life, so that he takes our sin, he takes our problems, and he's put it on the cross, and he put to death all of those things. And so what is Christianity if we can't even do that with the churches or with the people or with the movement? Mm-hmm. That's all I'm going to say about that. Mm-hmm. Now, I did want to touch on what our personal experience is now that we've been out. What we think about things now. And then I'm going to get to the questions that I did have. What do we think about things now? How are your thoughts now that you've had some time away from Bethel, some time away from the school, having heard what you've heard from different people?
Mm-hmm. I believe that this experience that we had was life-changing. It really shaped us. But no matter what you learn and things that you put in practice, if you've not dealt with the heart, the mind, if you've not went through healing, no matter how much you've learned and no matter how much you think you know, when life hits you in the face and you have struggles, because let me tell you, since 2015, when we came back, there's been a lot of struggles. A lot of up and downs. A lot of disappointment towards each other, towards churches, towards people, towards family, there's been disappointment. And until, as a human being, as your own person, you make a decision to get healing, to get therapy, to dig deep, and to make a change in who you are at the core level, you're not going to be able to experience the fullness of what you've learned.
Yeah.
It's because when you are healed, your knowledge becomes wisdom. If you're not healed, it's only knowledge because you're not practicing what you've learned.
That's really good.
So you can be holy in the way you speak, but in the heart, if you're not healed, it's just vain. Your words are just vain. Mm-hmm.
So overall, in what you've heard and in how you're feeling, you would now recommend people getting therapy before going to school like that, or going to a school like that and then getting therapy?
Heck yes. Do get therapy before you go there. Like I said, the school there is not for healing. You're going to get healing for sure if you go there. You have an interview to go through anyways beforehand. Like there's 1,200 people that attend the first year, but there's like tens of thousands of people that apply. And when you get accepted, like you struck gold basically. They chose you to go to their church. And if you manage to go through it and be one of the people there that needs healing more than they are already healed or discipled, you're still gonna get healing. But I so recommend find person that believes in the being whole, not just healthy spiritually, but being healthy spiritually, being healthy in your body, being healthy in your mind. Like the whole thing, everything needs to be fixed somehow to be able to get to that school and get everything that you need out of it.
So I think for me, the main thing that I would say right now of what I feel and kind of just now looking on everything, I think for the first 3 years after being back, I pined so much to do the second year of Bethel there are 3 years of doing the school of ministry there, and I was pining so much to do the second year that I think I missed out on my personal growth and experience of living here. And I missed out because I was half living this idea that we were just always going to go back. And that's something that it wasn't imposed on me to do a second year. It wasn't being told that I had to do that. But I think going back, I would tell myself, just live in the moment and don't constantly think that you're going to go back, because if you're supposed to, it's going to happen at some point. Don't live in two places at once. Mm-hmm. When it comes to things that people have said about the school and have brought up, their own ways of thinking about things, or, there have been some people that speak out about some things that have happened at the school itself. And I take the position of, I'm honestly really sad that people have experienced something negative going there, whether that's from a leader or from, a person that's there. I genuinely am not happy when I hear about those things. And there are a lot of things that they teach that I still question. Sometimes I have my own process. The whole wealth gospel, that's something that they talk a lot about finances and wealth. And I've had to do my own research and my own personal wonderments about the reason why they say certain things, and the reason why personally Chris says things. And I understand where they're coming from. Do I necessarily always agree with, always declaring that you're going to get money back every time that you do a tithe, and always declaring that you're going to get gifts and surprises in the mail? Do I always agree with that? I feel like I'm a little bit on the fence, because I don't always think that, we should be giving our tithe, which, for those of you who may not be Christian listening to this, a tithe is 10% of your salary that goes to the church, or goes to a mission, or it goes to an organization that's mainly Christian based. And there's a huge way of thinking over there that, when you tithe, you'll see a return, whether that's a physical manifestation or a financial or a spiritual. I just think that tithing is really important. And I think that, yes, you reap what you sow. Agreed. I agree. And I've seen that in my life. But to constantly declare it as if you're waiting always for gifts in the mail, always for something to happen, I don't know how much I feel comfortable with that. That's my own wonderment at this point. I'm on my own journey. I've seen a lot of amazing things happen in our life when it comes to our finances. We have seen a lot of things happen when we have tithed and we were praying, specifically to bless somebody. And then, a few weeks down the line, we saw an increase in our finances, literally miraculously, or us getting a car literally miraculously. So I believe in the fact that the Lord wants to provide for us financially, because money is not God. God uses money in order to provide for his children. But to go as far as to say each time that I tithe, I'm going to receive something, or I'm hoping the Lord for this, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's always the best thing to do or the best way to go about it. But I'm still on my own journey. That's what I have to say about that. I think in general, we've loved our experience living and going to BSSM, Bethel Supernatural School Ministry, going to Bethel. And if there were 3 things that we had to single out, were the things that we've learned and we appreciated the most from our experience, I'll let you go first. What would those be, babe?
First off is their culture of honor. They're very honoring towards everyone, and they treat everyone as equals. There's one kind of person, one kind of people, and it's God's children. We're all equal, 100%. We all have our roles, but we're all equal, which I really love, because there's a bunch of things out there that like this culture is going crazy with, like the racism and the victim mentality, the virtue signaling, and being there, whatever your opinion is, you honor the other person. And I think that's one thing that I really, really enjoyed being there, is there's no one better than the other person, and no one's seeking to be better than anyone else. Everyone is seeking to grow together and learn from each other. And if someone says something and they disagree with it, you go and you test the revelation. You don't just like shut it down. You actually go, you take what they said, and you process it. And I really love that people are able to honor each other in that. And another thing I would say is their community. I've learned to be a friend there. I've learned what it looked like to be opened, to be truthful, to be an open book, to be transparent, and to not be afraid of speaking about things that you don't want the world to know, because saying the truth is always the right answer. So you can't keep anything, especially in that atmosphere. You don't want to keep it. Like I lived with a guy my first year without you. We weren't married yet. And the guy I was living with was my first real guy friend, deep conversation in my entire life. 21 years old, you have your first guy relationship like that you're able to go this deep. And the way they encourage community is amazing. Like they have a whole course for a whole week or two, and it's called Brave Communication. How to be brave in communicating and putting boundaries with friendships, telling your heart on how you feel. Even with relationships, they encourage dating. Like they're like, you go to most Christian churches and they're like, this time is devoted only to Jesus. Jesus is your boyfriend or girlfriend this whole time. There, you go there, and the guy makes you hold hands to pray, and he doesn't pray. He just says, squeeze the hand next to you if you want to date that person. It's so funny. Like they're really genuine people. I really loved it. So that's my second one, community. And the other one would be practicing. Practice what you're taught. Like most people will teach you, and they'll never give you tools to practice it. There, they have a book for everything to practice. Practice forgiveness. Practice preaching. Practice being an evangelist. They have a book for everything. And they are actually detailed. And they all have experience. Like they don't teach out of like, I think that's what you should do. They think of out of, I've went through all of that. Like the son of one of the preachers there, like his wife cheated on him. They got divorced. They had 3 children. The guy is remarried, has a child, but the whole book is about how he went through the process of forgiveness.
That book changed my life.
It changed both of our lives completely. We learned what it looked like to forgive. And now I even have a tattoo about forgiveness on my leg. And that is key to grow as a Christian. Because have you ever bitten in a lemon? Makes you scream, you squeeze your face and it's very bitter. Well, that's what it's like when you're not forgiving. Your soul is feeling sour, it's feeling bitter, it's feeling hate. I hate this. I hate this, but you keep it in. It's not good. Imagine having the same feeling in your mouth of a lemon your whole life. That's what bitterness is. That's unforgiveness. That's what it is. And it gets a toll on your body. It gets a toll on your mind, your emotions, and all of that. And yeah, I would say that's my third thing, is that they have experienced things, they're teaching it, and they're telling you how to apply it in your life.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. 100%. I think for me, the first thing was how much it does go with what Oliver says, experience, but it's the fact that they give you tools and they say, go out now. Go and do what we just said. practice. And one of the biggest things that I saw for me personally was giving prophetic words and words of knowledges, specifically words of knowledges. If you don't know what that is, a prophetic word is usually about the future, and a word of knowledge is about something that's happening in the present, or you want to tell somebody about something in the recent years, whether it's past, present, and it's usually very, very detailed. Prophecy is usually detailed about the future.
Or it can be really silly as you're thinking, should I buy chicken or beef tonight? And the guy is going to say, you've just been thinking about buying chicken or beef, eh? That's a word of knowledge. It can be as silly as that.
It can be as silly as that. So yes, so there's that. And for me, I think that my experiences of just being taught how to do that and how to listen from the Lord for somebody, and to go out in situations where you may not want to experience necessarily hearing something from the Lord for somebody, and you may not want to walk up to them, but then it happens, and then you're kind of confronted with this idea of like, do I not say anything? Do I just go on my merry way? Especially in Quebec, where we're the type of people who don't even smile when we open a door for you when you're going into like the grocery store. It's very different than at the US. Like, when you're dealing with the grocery lady, she's just like, okay, we're just going to pass the thing. When somebody opens the door for you, you don't say thank you. You just kind of nod your head. When you're walking and you see somebody on the other side of the street, you don't smile, you don't say hello. Whereas in the States, it's like, how you do? How are you doing? Like, hope you have a good day. You start talking about like why you're buying the things that you're buying. That never happens in Quebec at all.
Rarely.
Or very, very rarely. And so taking that and then utilizing it in a place like Reading where they're used to experiencing stuff like that, and then going into Quebec, into where we're from, and then putting that out there and asking God, okay, do you have something for me, for somebody? So that was the first thing that I think that I was very much tested, stretched, and grew a lot. And that was one of the things that I'm so glad to have learned and experienced there. Number 2 would be community, as Oliver said. My friend Shar, she may be listening, she may not, but hi Shar, if you are listening. She was a huge factor in my life of understanding what friendship was supposed to look like, and it changed my life. It changed my life forever. And regardless of how close we are or how far we are, or if we talk or we don't talk, I will continuously have in the back of my mind this idea of what I've learned from building community with this woman, and it changed me. I went into school and I was like, I'm not going to have any friends. I told myself I was not going to have friends because I had to deal with Oliver's laughing. I had to deal with my hurt from having friendships growing up that disappointed me, that I was hurt by. And that's where the whole forgiveness thing came in. I spent like the whole first month of my school there learning about forgiveness, about these people in my life. And I met my friend Shar on the 18th of September, which is her wedding day.
18th? 15th? Or we started dating 15th?
15th, because the 18th is your birthday. The 18th is your birthday.
It's supposed to be the guy that has a bad time
I know.
dates.
Oh, okay. The 15th, because I forgot because it's your birthday. The 15th, which is her wedding anniversary, and that's our dating anniversary. Yeah. Oops, I just did a boo-boo there. So the 15th of September, and it was almost very key. Like, she's like, oh, I like your tattoo. And honestly, that was a very interesting experience, because I remember that day I was thinking I don't want friends, and she just came into my day like just swiftly, and I was able to congratulate her because it was her wedding anniversary and it was our dating anniversary, and she got married a year before we started dating. And so like we had been dating a year, so it was just really sweet moment. And from that time on, we developed community. You know, she would confront me about things. I'd confront her about things. We would have deep conversations like I've never had deep conversations before. And I learned a lot about community from that relationship. So community would be my second thing. The third thing that I learned was, I don't want to steal it from you, Oliver, but it is true that the culture of honor is very great there. But
that's why I'm like, I need to start with this because
I don't want to steal it from you. I don't want to steal it from you. So what I am going to say is vulnerability.
It's our experience. It's not just my experience, you know?
No, I know, but
we're impacted by mostly the same
Of
things.
course. But I am going to say that it's vulnerability. I learned what it looks like to genuinely be vulnerable and what it looks like for others to genuinely be vulnerable. And you know, my whole podcast, I turned into somebody from New York.
Podcast? You don't say podcast in New York.
Or maybe like Boston.
I think it's just a Sabrina thing.
My whole podcast is all about raw, authentic, sharing who you are, being real. Mm-hmm. And this is the place that I learned so much about what that looks like. And I was able to carry that into my relationships coming back home. And I remember moments where in our small group, people would be sharing things that were extremely deep that I was like, oh, wow, like I've never been in a circumstance where somebody was being this deep with me, or, you know, one-on-one with my friend, or just with other people, where they would just open up their hearts. Like if it was, like if it was just like you were best friends all of your lives. And that definitely shifted things and changed perspectives in me, that I said, I am not going to go back home to Quebec where it's already hard to make relationships and not bring this along with me. And it's been hard. It's been hard being in Quebec and being this person who abides by this idea that I am going to be authentic and genuine with people no matter what the cost. And I'm not going to be fake with you guys right now. You know, I've had situations where I've been hurt by people because I, you know, gave too much, or they gave too little, or I desired too much and they, you know, weren't as involved as I would have hoped in the relationship. But I still, you know, to this day am incredibly happy and joyful that I was able to learn what it looks like to be vulnerable in relationships, and what it actually looks like for other relationships to be vulnerable with us, for me and Oliver. So our time there was not in vain. We've had amazing experience there. I'm genuinely so happy that we were able to experience being at Bethel, experiencing all these different things that we've experienced there. We would love to at some point make a podcast. If you have any questions or anything about, or you want us to tell stories of our experience there, I wanted to just give kind of like an overview of our time there and kind of touch on little things that a lot of people talk about, our experience, all that. But if you want to know any stories that we have, I want to share them. You know, we have so many stories in bank that it's time for us, you know, 7 years later to share them, to be able to express what we experienced and what we learned from these stories. And so if you have any questions, don't forget to ask them down below. And you know, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and kinking that bell.
Kinking? You've been talking for too long.
Thank you guys for subscribing, for clicking that bell icon so that you'll be notified when another podcast comes out. Congratulations for being on the first podcast of season 2. Yeah. And we will be back with another podcast next week. Thank you guys so much for listening as well. All of my listeners out there, subscribe and leave a comment and rate and review. That is so important on Apple. Rate and review, and subscribe on YouTube and on Apple. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.